Welcome to the Podcast Club. Today's episode, The Breakfast Club, How Advertising Changed When and What We Eat, featuring Jesse DaCosta. Please keep in mind this is our first episode, so it's a little crunchy.
Alright, so here's my theory. Here's my meal theory. I've been thinking about this for the past 2 weeks nonstop. Right? So breakfast is the only meal that isn't based off of time.
Right.
And here's why. Because you're breaking your fast of sleep. Which is why, right, someone like me who has a very bad sleep schedule, on days off, I wake up at 2 p.m., right? I eat breakfast at only 3 to 4 p.m.
Right.
And that's still breakfast for me.
Well, it'd be more of a brunch, wouldn't it? Like breakfast, lunch.
No. So here's
No, because then you also have lunch after that.
Right.
That's also true. But here's what I think brunch is, since we're already on the topic of brunch as well.
Brunches.
Brunch is the swapping between breakfast 2 and lunch. If you have a heavy food, let's say you have a big meaty meal, right? For breakfast 2, that would not be breakfast 2. That would be brunch,
right?
Because it's more lunch type food.
It's a heavier
during
meal,
the breakfast area time. Right?
Wait, so explain what breakfast 2 is.
Alright, so
bacon, eggs,
here's what breakfast 2 is. Since we all agree that breaking your fast is breakfast, right? So let's say I wake up and I eat an apple and a granola bar at, let's say, around 8 p.m. 8 a.m., right? So that would be my breakfast.
Hang on, I got a variable for you. What defines breakfast? Because breakfast is a meal. Some would define apple and granola bar as a snack.
So some will define it, but that would still be breakfast.
Right, that's why I was saying that it's subjective to the person.
Exactly.
Which is why I might wake up and eat a granola bar, and I'll say that's not my breakfast.
And then
I eat 4 actual human beings at 2 p.m., that's my breakfast.
Yeah. I sometimes just grab some coffee or tea or
4
something.
human beings at 2 p.m. would already be lunch. Because
remember,
because it's some people ask to eat lunch. Yeah.
Wait, so go back to breakfast 2.
Alright, so here's what breakfast 2 is. So let's say I wake up at 8 a.m. I eat a granola and an apple.
Okay.
Right? A granola bar and an apple, because I want to have something. Because I want breakfast, right? I want something in my stomach to break the fast of sleep, right? And then comes around 3 hours later, 11 a.m. I get hungry again. I suddenly make myself a toast. That would be breakfast 2.
I got you.
Right?
Yeah.
But let's say instead of that toast, I had those mini minute steaks.
Yeah.
So let's say I had some of those. That would be brunch already and not breakfast.
Yeah, because it's a heavier food.
Exactly, because it's a heavier lunch type food.
Right.
Exactly.
We were all conditioned to think that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Can we all agree that it's not?
It isn't, dude.
It
really
isn't. I haven't had breakfast in 4 days.
Dude.
I haven't had breakfast in how old am I? 17, so a good 10 years.
You've had breakfast, you just don't count it as breakfast.
And I haven't had sitting down and eating eggs and cereal.
orange juice and
right.
Every single day this week, the first thing I've had is lunch.
What's breakfast?
I usually just grab an apple.
That's still breakfast. So here's what we'll be
saying breakfast as breakfast. When you wake up in the morning, you have the most important Bell's breakfast. You have the most important meal of your day, where you have to really think it out because it's and you have to eat mix your carbs and your protein. It's never made an effect on my day.
Yeah, no, I agree. 100%. Breakfast isn't the most important.
You just need something to tide you over for lunch.
Do you know what I think is the most important meal of the day? In my opinion, lunch is the most important meal of the day.
100%. Yeah.
And here's why. Because somebody can skip breakfast and still have enough strength to last the day until lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Meaning breakfast is less important than lunch. If somebody has only breakfast, right, works, and then has only dinner, their work would probably be less efficient since they would be hungry.
We see that in school.
Exactly.
We're hungry between lunch and dinner like crazy. But that's because you're not doing anything between dinner and breakfast.
Yeah.
But you are doing things between breakfast and dinner.
Exactly. Exactly. Which is why lunch is in fact the most important meal of the day, and not breakfast. Well, lunch is the most important meal of the day, easily. 100%.
Yeah.
Right. Now here's
Don't eat breakfast, in my opinion. Don't eat it. Just don't.
So here's what Williams claims.
Just don't eat.
Williams says that you cannot eat breakfast. You cannot have breakfast in your day. Now this goes against our theory, saying that the first meal of your day will always be breakfast, regardless of time.
I don't mean as in the breaking the fast. I mean as in what people call
what
breakfast.
is the most important meal of the day? Not that if you wake up and you don't eat anything till lunch, you'll be fine.
Right.
But which you might. But breakfast is the most important meal. Is not the most important meal of the day. Breakfast meaning this thing that they put into our mind of a balanced breakfast where you have to eat the carbs and the protein and whatever and mix those together as this is the meal that I plan out for the day. This is going to completely change my life.
Here's what I think the big reasoning behind that is because supposedly the first things you do in your day are very important to the rest of your day. Let's say, for example, I'm sure as we're all teenagers here, you ever woke up one day and just started scrolling TikTok or Instagram, right? Just first thing First
I
thing
don't
you
sleep
do.
like
Okay,
that.
you do.
He scrolls OnlyFans. That's where he goes.
Yeah, right. And then the rest of his day, his mind is probably on that same OnlyFans model he saw, right?
Yeah.
But then, like, I personally, I think that the fact that like we wake up and scroll on Instagram or something, the first thing of our day really does affect the rest of the day to some level.
To some
Of course, it doesn't plan your whole day.
I personally wake up and say Modehani. I don't know about you.
I usually wake up and like read a Holocaust book.
No wonder you're so depressed.
Rewatch Schindler's List.
Every morning I wake up, watch Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Every day I don't wake up.
Read it.
I skip step one. I just don't wake up.
I read before I go to sleep when I wake up.
Okay, no, but you guys understand my point,
Yeah.
right? There is some effect, and I think that's the same logic
That's why I'm so
behind the
depressed.
you need a balanced breakfast thing.
No.
The reason, right, like, for example, personally, I don't know about you guys, but I have a few, like, I've had a few days where I would make breakfast, and I made, like, you know, eggs, and then I had, like, you know, tuna a bit, and then I
Right,
had
yeah.
salad, and the salad really did, like, make me feel better about the rest of the day. So there is...
That's rich.
It's not rich. That's the point. It's the protein.
So no, but like that made me feel better than in comparison to the other days where I would have had that exact same meal minus the salad.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. So it's the idea of planning your balanced breakfast that will balance out your day. Like how they say, dirty room, dirty mind. Messy room, messy mind. It's like if you balance, if you organize everything at the beginning of your day, it's a part
Your
of
day will be
it's a
more
part of the routine.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
there
exactly.
are people who will wake up and set their beds. I've never once done that in my life.
Same.
People who wake up and set their beds and then they go and they're like, now I'm gonna
Set their
eat my
bed.
You know what I heard?
Set
Do
your
you-
bed. Make your bed, bro.
Do you guys know what?
Set your bed.
Do you guys know what I heard
Wait,
about
wait.
people who make their beds? They have a 100% chance increase to make their beds each morning.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's
Science, bro.
That's really a thing.
Yeah, I know. It
That's really a
is.
statistic. But
There's more chance of me waking up on time than me setting my bed.
That's true. Me too.
Yeah.
That's-
If I wake up and I make my bed and then I go out and I eat my Cheerios with my glass of milk, which will definitely deter the rest of my day because of my Ashkenazi metabolism. But let's say my Cheerios and my glass of milk, and I have a morning routine that will definitely affect the rest of my day.
For sure.
I think that's the important part of the balanced breakfast. I don't think that Tony the Tiger from Frosted Flakes really cares if you eat your Frosted Flakes along with an orange.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would prefer it if you just ate more frosted flakes.
Right, yeah, that's true.
Make
All
it more
right, since we're on this topic already, let's talk about the big monopoly that the biggest cereal brands have. Right? Can we? Let's.
It's all Unilever.
I seem to remember actually.
It's all Unilever.
Dude, I saw this on the. I think I saw it on the Joe Rogan podcast or something. But the whole.
ShopRite.
But the whole freaking breakfast is the main meal of the day was actually made by cereal
Right,
companies
right.
Yeah,
trying to get
that
the
makes
sales
so
up.
that makes so much sense, right? Because imagine, like, most parents, I'm assuming they get up, you know, and they're tired, right? They
Yeah.
probably went to bed late because of their kids, right?
they don't have
And
to
they
make
want,
breakfast
and they don't have to make breakfast because they're cereal. All they have to do is give the kids some milk in a bowl and the cereal, and the kid does everything themselves. And the thing is, the kids want to do it themselves. I remember just like 4 years ago.
Tony the Tiger on TV.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
see Tony the Tiger on TV. They see a big, you know, buff, like, you know, tiger smiling at them, going like this, right? You know, for since you guys can't see, I was holding my thumb up in a thumbs up position.
Great.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it really like captivates them. And you know what else I realized? The colorful foods as well really get children. Like fruit.
Straight up.
Have you guys?
It's the same
Why do
with
you
Kool-Aid.
think?
It's
why,
fun to play with and fun to
Same with
eat.
Kool-Aid. You see this big Kool-Aid guy and you're like, oh yeah.
Kool-Aid's not even that good.
Kool-Aid's
But-
fucking trash.
I've never had Kool-Aid, but like when I lived in America, I would see on TV and I would be like, I want Kool-Aid.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
because. But like,
It's the same as Coke.
Yeah,
It's about the feeling.
And
of
the
having
thing
it.
is, this also, do you
name.
know how else, like, for example, the genius behind the Kool-Aid Man, do you want me to explain this? The amount of memes I've seen about the Kool-Aid Man. So, I don't know about you guys, but I've actually seen a like ton of memes
Yeah,
about the
same.
Kool-Aid Man.
I have a Kool-Aid
right?
Man shirt.
You know? There we go. That's another form of
It's a very
advertisement, right?
recognizable
But did you guys know that the original like use of memes was as a form of propaganda? And the fact is that hasn't changed until today. Memes have changed.
Posters, if you look at the posters for World War II,
Those count as memes. Yes,
Yeah.
that was the original meaning of memes, and it hasn't changed until today. For example, look at any major event like the Israel-Palestine conflict right now. There's so many memes. It's just so many memes. Exactly.
Interesting thing that I've heard about this is that I once saw a theory, probably also on Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
where they talked about how the government and the FBI, there's a whistleblower, you know what I mean? Somebody who comes who used to work for a place and is like leaking their secrets, who came out and said that the FBI uses meme warfare.
Yeah.
The FBI infiltrates the internet, just
People
fills
think
it,
that
fills it with a
technology
ton of these
is not
memes,
anymore.
and they're trying to change these people's minds. And I find it interesting because there have been these times where I've like scrolled through TikTok, like doom scrolled back in the day, and I found like these things where you can like look through memes, and it would just be like 12 memes that are really like funny, and really smart, and really thought out, but they're just so deeply anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It's like me when I find out that Jews control this amount of money, and they show like statistics, and whoever did these memes
They know what they're doing.
knows what they're doing. I mean, it's not some stupid anti-Semite. It's like somebody who sat there and worked on these memes for hours. There's something behind that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
We're not saying the FBI is asymmetric, just all follow it.
Yeah, FBI, please. We're friends. We're friends. We're friends here.
You can call us a brother.
Yes, exactly. But what we're saying.
Not halal.
But what I'm saying here is that memes have a lot more control over the population than people really realize. Like, I feel like part of the reason that Kool-Aid is nowadays so very popular and talked about, even though we all agree that it's not the best, like,
pretty mid.
Yeah, exactly, it's pretty mid, right? It's still one of the most, like, popular...
recognizable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it has such a huge amount of memes, right?
Yeah.
Because you see it everywhere you go. Because they popularize it. They advertise it with memes, with merch, right?
Something like FaceTime.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Hate FaceTime.
FaceTime?
FaceTime.
Phase Clan.
Oh, FaceTime.
No, but you're right. Just a second ago, I said not halal. Why would I say that? Hey, if you realize, all of these creators that have risen, all of these creators who have risen in the past few months, all have Islamic influence, and they all have this influence. I just said not halal. I say not halal, and whatever, I'm joking when I'm talking about my approval of something, but the next guy to say not halal is going to be speed. It gets into his mind, he says not halal, until you see him standing in front of a group of people saying, Ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah, and converting to Islam.
Right.
You know, it's like, it's really interesting. I don't know how we got to this from breakfast, but...
Yeah, no, so I actually am very curious about how Islam really got the popularity of the
creators.
Yeah, the creators. I'm really interested about that because, like, at least in my opinion, no, I'm not even biased about it. I'm not the most Jewish boy, Jewish boy. The reason that I keep the mitzvot like more than because they're mitzvot, is because I think that the Jews are actually the most moral nation there is.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm not mistaken, we're like the only nation to say that you have to treat a slave like he's part of your house, like you're like a guest, right?
Yeah.
Well,
where else have
to be
we seen
a
something like
bubble
that?
popper,
No, it's okay.
but Islam also has that to some extent.
To some extent.
To some extent.
I actually don't know what are the Islamic laws on that.
You're gonna have to tune in next time for that.
Right.
But let's go back to breakfast and we were talking about influence and how the meme world and how it's been so ingrained in our minds through the media that breakfast exists.
Yeah. It definitely has been like grinded into our brains that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And the thing is, it doesn't even take much thought to realize that it isn't.
Okay, we realized that it cut off at 15 minutes. We were talking about the effect that advertisements have on our life, and he brought up that, Jesse brought up that Book of 99, right, all the characters use iPhones, and that subconsciously brings us to recognize iPhones as the central phone.
Yeah.
Right?
By the way, shout out Brooklyn Nine-Nine, let's go.
Right, we see that everybody's using iPhones in that show, and Uriel pointed out that when people are not using it, we notice that they're not using an iPhone.
Like in Spider-Man, Far From Home, I noticed they're all using Android. And I noticed it because it wasn't Apple. It was
Right.
an iPhone, and I'm just so used to iPhones.
That makes iPhone central phone, which is why when I have my Android phone over here, which is a OnePlus, people look at it and say, "Whoa, what's that camera?" And that's because we've been.
Whereas my iPhone, everybody looks at it and goes, "Oh,
It's just an iPhone.
13 Pro Max," and that's
Right.
exactly what phone it is.
Right, exactly. And I'll take us back so we can repeat what we said that got cut out, which is that this advertising world in general has had such an effect on our life and even on our family life to the point where
You're talking about food advertisements.
right. Well, we'll be sitting at lunch. My parents all of a sudden get this idea. They see a food and they start singing these songs from advertisements from their childhood of food, and that really gets it into their mind. That even when they're 46, 47 years old, they still remember these things from when they were younger.
Yeah, but advertisements, like a lot, I'm sure you've all noticed that advertisements themselves really try to get like a catchy jingle or something to like keep your mind
Like
hooked
McDonald's.
on it. right? A hook in the advertisement.
Right.
Yeah,
And they just
exactly.
they're
trying to, yes, they're trying
even
to,
after the commercial.
yeah, after the commercial is done, they want your brain to still randomly think of their
Even after you
commercial.
lived your entire life. Even when this company that makes whatever you're talking about doesn't exist anymore, and you're 46 and you're eating lunch on a Saturday in 2023, you and your husband are going to start singing the song from the polio cheese. It's like crazy.
So that I think is specific.
And then I go to the store, and I see polio cheese, and I'm like, oh my god, that's the one that my parents were singing about. I didn't realize that still existed.
And now it's getting passed
cool.
down generations.
Right.
It is, and now we're talking about it on a podcast.
Exactly.
And as Jews, we understand generation.
Yeah, and control of mind.
Right.
Yeah.
That's us. I think that the whole meat part got cut out.
The whole meat part. Do we want to repeat the meat part? All right.
Basically, what we had said is that we as Jews don't eat meat for breakfast because most of us, or some of us, whatever, we all have to wait after eating meat a certain amount of time before we can eat milk products. So I'm not going to wake up in the morning and like I see bacon as not a light food. Breakfast has to be a light food for me. I see bacon as not a light food. Bacon is basically just thin steaks, you know, which is why I can never see that as a breakfast food, even if it wasn't the whole meat idea. But that's because we don't eat meat in the morning, because if you eat meat in the morning, you can't eat milk for the rest of the day. And like we've been conditioned as Jews to see meat as a meal, and that's why we don't have that idea in us. And the one time I did eat meat for breakfast is when I actually sat down and thought out my day of when will I be able to eat milk again, which is interesting.
Yeah. You know. I actually think that that is true. And as I don't know if you guys remember, but I wasn't always Jewish, like religious Jewish, right?
Yeah.
My family wasn't always religious Jewish. Like we used to have pepperoni pizza when I was a kid. I think like first grade, more or less, right? And that's why I think I'm actually a lot more open to meat for breakfast. Yeah, which is why like I don't mind having like a whole steak for breakfast. At like 9 a.m. Just
I got that.
Yeah.
And I'll connect that to your idea that you said before of breakfast too. If you eat meat, it becomes brunch.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about breakfast too and how it's like it could be heavy or whatever. But he said if I eat meat, then breakfast too becomes brunch. That's because you see meat as a heavier food.
I see meat as a heavier food. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
So but I would also count like there are definitely some dairy products. Like if somebody had lasagna for breakfast too, I would definitely say that's not breakfast too. That's
I've had
brunch.
lasagna for breakfast.
No, not for breakfast.
4 days ago.
I'm saying for breakfast too. If somebody had lasagna for breakfast too,
Right.
I'd say that's brunch and not breakfast.
Because breakfast too is two light meals.
Yeah.
Breakfast
Yeah,
if you
breakfast
have
too would be a second light meal.
Right. They're both light meals, but
But brunch is more of a heavier lunch type.
after your
Lunch
first
type.
breakfast.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And then you had dinner too.
Dinner too. Yeah.
How many meals?
Wait,
are
so
there
there's
today?
3 meals in a day, theoretically, which are breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Three
But-
base
right.
meals that those are ideal.
So
you get.
actually, I want to bring up a point before you get into that,
Why is also key?
which is that that's what I was about to say. In Israel, we have this thing, which is
Yeah,
hard
Arukhat Eser.
nowadays with globalization, but it's called Aruchat Eser, the meal of 10, meaning you eat a meal at 10. When I was going to elementary school, for the 2 years I went to elementary school in Israel, every day we brought 2 meals to school.
Every day I would have a meal.
We would bring
Same thing in New
a sandwich. Everybody ate a peanut butter sandwich at 10,
Even at meal
and then you ate lunch.
Even at meal
Now
food.
we don't have that as much, but there's definitely an idea
Also-
of having an ingrained idea in society that's not necessarily Western society of having
I
more
wouldn't
than
say it's
3
not
meals a
Western
day.
side. We had the same thing. Maybe it's because we're back in New Zealand. We had the same thing. It was either called morning tea or it was called morning break.
Right.
Where it was a
Yeah,
short break where everyone would eat something.
Right.
You get like 15
Yeah.
minutes.
Also,
and then you go back.
Or in England, we would have tea when I'm at my grandparents' house when I'm back home.
Well, we had discussed before we started
Yeah,
eating
tea.
the time frames of foods. So I had said I think that he had said between 11 and 3 is lunch.
No. I said I've heard people say between 11 and 3 is lunch. Personally, I think between 12 to like around 6 is a good like lunch.
But I just
The thing is, my problem,
because you said
No, because I'm going all the way. Like after 6, that's it. It's no
My
more
problem-
lunch. I'm
but that's
going all the way.
fine,
That's like the edge. Like that's
my
exactly.
problem with that is that in England, when we have tea is at 4 every day. Tea
Right.
is at 4, so you can't say lunch. And you don't have tea for lunch. You have lunch before you have tea. So
Okay,
you can't say
that's
that
fine.
lunch goes till 6.
So
No, I'm not saying lunch goes until 6, but I'm saying
You can have
I'm saying let's say you had a day where you didn't have tea and you only had breakfast, right? You ate lunch at 5:30, right? I would say you ate a meal at 5:30. I would say that meal was lunch and not dinner.
I disagree. I think that breakfast is
I agree.
subjective to when
We have
you
dinner
woke up
at
and
5
when you
every
first
day.
ate, but lunch is definitively between 11 and 3.
I would
If you
say it
eat
was between like
12 and 3.
Past 11, maybe.
Right, maybe 11:30
Yeah.
and 3 that time, and then even 3 I think is a little late, but
Yeah.
11 and 3, and then from 5 to 2 a.m. could be dinner.
And then what's between 3 to 5?
2 a.m.
If I eat a meal between 3 to 5. No, if I eat a meal,
Snack.
No, let's say I make
Right,
a
that's what I'm saying, we have
a
these-
whole pizza. Like let's say I make.
Well,
I
that's
make
not, that's
pizza,
not then that's
right?
not one of the.
Between I would
That's
say
not
pizza,
one of the
I would-
definitive.
You have
It's
to
not
be
one of the
able to-
definitive
No,
meals.
that's
You're
what I'm
just
saying.
eating a
There
meal.
definitely is a meal
It's not
time
time.
between there.
Yeah.
There definitely is a meal time, which
It's
is why I
gotta be
say
like something
that
that's
until like
scheduled, that someone's
six,
written up.
six, I can even agree that 6 like someone pushing
Look
it.
it up. Look it up.
Yeah, let me look that up.
But so what we were saying before is that a lot of people, this happens in my house probably every night when I'm asleep, but definitely happens on Thursday nights when I'm awake, which is where we'll eat like the family dinner, which will be whatever we're eating, if it's pasta, whatever it might be, and then we'll go and we'll have another meal afterwards.
Yeah.
Especially like the kids go
I
to
do
sleep. Like we'll
My
eat.
younger brother will go to sleep.
Right.
I'll have dinner with him. I'll have pasta with him, whatever. He'll go to sleep, and then I'll have like a toast or I'll have an egg.
No,
Right,
not
I've
even that.
got Wikipedia outline of meals. Sorry.
Wheels.
Oh wow,
Meals.
okay.
Let me find it here. So it says types of meals, history of meals, components of meals, and meal-related activities.
You said it's up to
Let me find it.
15
Keep
minutes.
talking. I'll find it.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that
6 minutes.
6 minutes. It's a little shady on. We have so we'll have dinner with the family, right? And I'll say like my parents, everybody, we're all eating pasta, and then like my younger sisters go to sleep. My mother says, "What are we eating?" It's really funny because we just had dinner. Like, what are we eating? I'm like, yeah, what are we eating? She's like, no, not you, whatever. But the point is that on Thursday nights we will usually eat whatever we're eating, and then we'll go and have chill until like 1 a.m. You know?
Yeah, no, that's dinner
is,
too.
That is dinner too.
That's dinner too.
But if you ate a big meal at 7, and then you had a snack later on, that's a midnight snack.
Yeah, that's a midnight snack
That's
because at that point it's a
dinner too,
snack and not an actual
right.
meal, making it the
But-
snack and not dinner too.
I've got it here. All right.
Okay.
So it says here, breakfast. The definition is a meal eaten in the morning, usually before 10 a.m.
Okay.
Later meals can involve breakfast food, but are usually not considered breakfast.
Right.
Second breakfast is a small meal.
So
eaten
breakfast
after-
2 is a thing.
Yeah.
Breakfast 2
Officially.
is a thing. Breakfast 2.
You heard it here.
It's just gonna be Arcad Esser because it's gonna be from 10.
Yeah, that's what we would call like morning tea or arcad SL. After the second breakfast, you'd have brunch, which is usually a combination of breakfast and lunch, eaten during the late morning, but can extend to as late as 3 p.m. I'm not sure if I agree with that.
No,
3
that
p.m. is
brunch
pretty
is
late.
not.
Well, Wikipedia says it. I mean, surely.
No, brunch doesn't go to 3.
yeah, exactly. No,
It's a bit late. It's a bit late.
That's not brunch anymore. That's already dinner.
Yeah.
3 p.m. is already dinner. I'm sorry.
After brunch, you'll have lunch, also known as the midday meal. Is blah, blah,
And
blah.
since-
That is usually, it doesn't say when.
I want to point
It's-
out here, since they didn't say when, they said after brunch. They said brunch can
Oh,
get
here
up
it
to
is.
3 p.m.
It says
that means
lunch.
lunch can be above. No, not can be.
has a number.
They said lunch has to be above 3 p.m.
What's your number?
No, so it says lunch usually eaten around midday, usually between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m.
Yes!
Whoa!
And then from there it goes to tea at 4. It doesn't go to 6 p.m. I'm sorry. Nobody's eating lunch at 6 p.m.
Listen,
I'm eating dinner most days at 5:30
And then after lunch,
Ow.
you've got afternoon
because I have a younger brother.
afternoon tea, which is around 4
Yeah.
p.m., which
See-
usually traditionally consists of small sandwiches, individual cakes,
And tea.
scones. And tea, obviously. Then you'll have dinner.
If you haven't had scones,
Apparently, there
I
is a
suggest-
difference between dinner and supper. I didn't know that.
Maybe it's
I actually didn't know that.
dinner.
It says dinner is usually the largest and most elaborate meal of the day,
Right.
Yeah.
which can
That's true.
either replace lunch, high tea, or supper. However, the term dinner can have many different meanings depending on the culture.
Right.
Yes.
It may mean a meal of any size eaten at any time of the day. Historically, in British culture, dinner was taken at midday, so 12 o'clock, for children and manual workers.
in the evening.
Yeah. During the latter half of the 21st century, there has been a cultural shift towards everyone having the main meal in the late evening. The evening as the evening meal.
So dinner just means main.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it says supper is a light meal eaten in the late evening as early as 7 p.m. or as late as midnight.
Interesting. So supper
Yeah.
is dinner one.
So
I
supper
was
is
supper is dinner one.
So supper
you
is
eat
dinner
supper with
one.
your kids. You eat dinner with your wife.
Yes.
Okay, well, here,
Yes, I agree.
Here's,
You can't get a girl for
so
dinner.
here's-
You eat supper at home.
So here's what I'd say about that is I feel like there's a specific time frame between what counts as two, like what separates two different meals, right? Like let's say I have toast like right now, right? 10 minutes later I eat a sandwich. I wouldn't say I just had two different meals. I'd say I just took a
Yeah.
break between my meals. And I think that the same would be correct about dinner and supper.
Yeah, I think
And
so. But again, it also said dinner is usually a much larger meal than supper.
Yeah. So, you know, supper you have pasta with your kids, right? And then you'll have a dinner after that.
Right, I think an hour is a good break. Even not necessarily. I think it depends on the food because we'll eat.
If you have
pasta with my siblings,
toast and another toast,
my siblings go to sleep while we're still sitting at the table. My parents bring out more food. That actually happens.
And that's a new meal.
That's a new meal.
So if you have a toast,
I wouldn't say it's a new meal. I wouldn't say it's a new meal.
It depends how different the food is. I'm saying if you have a toast and another toast, that's not a new meal. I'm saying if you have a toast and then 10 minutes later you get pizza or maybe pasta or whatever, you have meat, right? That's a new meal.
No, I still wouldn't say that's a new meal. I'd say the toast would become more of an appetizer than it being a whole meal by itself.
I'm saying, but if you have a dairy toast,
Yeah, exactly.
but if you have a dairy toast, then meat. Because
I would say the dairy toast became an appetizer.
It's like you can't say. It's like with a large dinner.
I think if we weren't Jewish, then maybe I would count as a meal. But I'm saying if you go from dairy to meat, as the whole Judaism, right, meat dairy thing, I think then you're going to a different meal.
I see what you're saying.
I don't think
Because
so.
then you have to like take a break.
Yeah.
Like mentally.
Mentally.
You have to like take the things off the table. You have to like eat a cracker or something.
I can understand.
Wash out your mouth.
I can understand saying it. I can also understand saying it's different meal, but I definitely don't agree with it. I think that it would count as the same meal, and if not as the same meal,
you're allowed to have different opinions.
Yes.
That's how living works, people. Just because I support Israel doesn't mean you have to kill me.
I didn't say.
Americans here, take note. You don't have to hate someone if they have a different opinion.
Yes. That goes for all Americans.
Now that I've read Mein Kampf.
However, guys went Jewish for
my dad actually wants me to read Mein Kampf before we go to Poland.
Yeah, if we go to Poland.
If we go to Poland.
No, I asked.
We have it.
Growing up, my dad told me that they canceled it all for.
We have it in our house. Well, my dad, if they cancel, my dad just gets
That explains.
My dad's a history major. My dad's a Holocaust major.
Okay.
So
right at time.
So I find the Second World War interesting. Doesn't mean I make like.
What we've learned today is that subjectively, breakfast is the first meal that you eat of the day, no matter what time it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Breakfast 2 can consist of something lighter or heavier that you ate after breakfast 1. Meaning you ate breakfast and then later on you ate something else, but it's not yet lunch. It's not a meal. It's more just like
if it was a heavy
half
food,
meal.
then it would be more brunch.
Right. If it was like half, right. And then there's lunch, which is basically agreed upon that it's between the hours of 11 and 3.
11 to 3. Okay, you know what? I can
we can
fall
get
behind
basically
that. Yeah.
And then there's dinner. And then later on, there's the opportunity to have dinner too, which
also
is
known as supper.
Also known as supper, which is no. Well, it depends. It depends. Because dinner is the main nighttime meal.
Yeah. That's the
right. So you can eat supper with your family, you can eat supper with your kids, and go out to dinner with your wife.
I got that. Yeah.
Right. You can't go out to supper. That doesn't make sense.
No. Yeah.
Right. Or you can't. Whatever.
No,
that's the point.
Go out to supper.
And that's right. That's subjective also. If you ate a meal at night, if you ate a meal at 7 and then later on at 1 a.m. you decided to have a cookie, or you even decided to have a sandwich,
there was actually
I think that's
something
more
on Wikipedia that they called that a midnight breakfast.
Right, a midnight breakfast.
A midnight breakfast.
Really?
That's what they.
A breakfast.
I was saying a midnight fast.
A midnight snack. A midnight snack would be a midnight snack. Okay, but this is a
midnight breakfast. It's called midnight breakfast.
Well, are you having a snack or are you having like a breakfast?
It depends if you slept. Food. If you went to sleep at 7, you woke up at 12 and 8.
Yeah, if you fell asleep,
you wouldn't be
then I think
breaking the fast of sleep again.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So this is what we learned, and we got to the conclusion that there are differing opinions, and we accept everyone. Come back next time to the Breakfast Club.
Woo!